So I personally do not believe in conventional attractiveness. I don't think it's real, and more than that, fundamentally, I think it literally makes no sense at all. I'll break down what I think conventional attractiveness actually is, and then from there, we can get into why I think this isn't actually a sensible concept whatsoever. So, someone that's conventionally attractive, I think it's very Hollywood, right? It's men are hairless, women are hairless. It's you're thin, you're fit, you have abs, you have vascularity, maybe, small forehead, nice hair, jawlines, all these kind of superficial things that we all like strive for in our personal lives, and we deem ourselves attractive or not based off these characteristics, physically speaking, purely. That's what I think conventional attractiveness is always portrayed as, and I think that's what we can generally agree is. I'm not too big to say personally that I think those things can be pretty. Of course, I think that, right? I think a lot of us do. I think whether that's we actually think that or we're raised to think that, I'm not too sure. But I do think a lot of those things are pretty. But I do think with that, that is also very superficial. Not necessarily wrong, but superficial. And I think where conventional attractiveness for me just fundamentally lacks any sense of logic is it's pretty. It's not attractive, it's pretty. And there's a very fundamental difference between those two. I think something that is pretty can be anything that we nearly it can be subjective to an extent, I suppose, but I think that's actually more attractiveness. I think something that is pretty is more objective. I think a sunset is very pretty. We can all agree it's gorgeous. I also find myself attracted to sunsets, not in a sexual sense, but I still find that. Whereas I also think rainstorms are very beautiful, and I actually would rather sit and watch a rainstorm than a sunset, personally. I think both are gorgeous, but I think there's something more tranquil and that encapsulates me, and I think there's like a deeper level to something like a rainstorm. I think both are beautiful, but I'm personally a little bit more attracted to rainstorm. And I think the difference there is we can look at these and kind of pick them apart a little bit about how pretty they are, and they're both very pretty to me. I think a lot of people generally agree that sunsets are more pretty, but I think there's a lot more beauty and attraction, personally speaking, which is fully my opinion, it's fully subjective, in a rainstorm. And I think the problem with conventional attractiveness is no one literally ever can ever be conventionally attractive. That's not a thing. It's impossible. I think the right term would be conventionally pretty. That actually makes sense to me. Is yes, we all generally agree synonymously. These things make someone pretty, these things make someone generally unattractive, physically speaking, purely. But that doesn't make, or not unattractive, sorry, not pretty. But that doesn't make them attractive. That doesn't make them not attractive, right? We could flip it on its head and say this pretty person is unattractive because of XYZ, and this not as pretty person is attractive because of XYZ as well, or ABC, I suppose. So I think that's the difference for me is there's prettiness and there's attractiveness. And I think they're very, very different, but we use them as if they are synonyms. And they're not. In my opinion. I just fundamentally think they're not the same thing at all. And I think the difference for me is prettiness is more objective, attractiveness is more subjective. But I think attractiveness on basically every front and level is just deeper. I think there's another level to it. I think there's something about seeing like the imperfections of a person or a being or perhaps it's art that I find super super attractive. I like music that is stripped back, that is not produced with a bunch of auto tune and crazy engineering and stuff like that. I like the acoustic sessions where it's just the singer with an acoustic, and if you have vocal fry or a voice crack or the guitar strings are squeaking when you're playing, I love that because that's real, that's raw, that's authentic. And I think for me, what's most attractive is authenticity, and that doesn't go without effort in the sense of striving for perfection, but that is falling short of it. And I think falling short of perfection while in the pursuit of it is the peak of human experience and the peak of human beauty. I think it's the beauty of everything, really, because we try our best, but then we make a mistake. But that's what makes it real. Because if it was perfect, I don't think there's anything to that. I don't think that's attractive. I think that's pretty. And I think these imperfections, they're what make us human. And I don't want something that's perfect. I don't want AI. I don't think most people do. You know what I mean? I think we do. I think we're told that we want that. I think Hollywood portrays that. I think, digitally speaking, everything on social media, we're striving for this perfect life, but it's not a thing. And I think that imperfection is actually what rounds everything out. I've said this in other videos, and I'll say it again. I think contrast is the backbone of life in the sense that something bad makes something good good. If we didn't have the reference point of something bad, we wouldn't know what good is. And I think the fact that everything in life has its drawbacks and has its peaks is what makes everything beautiful. And with that, perfections are impossible. I think we should try to be our best, but noticing that we are going to be imperfect is what makes us beautiful. That's what makes us attractive. And I think it can actually be quite harmful and devastating, and to me, honestly, really unattractive when people try to act as though they are perfect and try to strive for this perfection with artificial means. Right? I'm not crazy on things like plastic surgery very much. It doesn't make that much sense to me. I don't want to be sold something that's fake and something that's not real. And I'm not trying to diss people that get that, but I think people do those striving for conventional attractiveness when that's not possible. And I think it makes you unattractive in my being, or like in my perspective, because you're trying to be perfect and trying to be perfect and thinking that you actually are more so is what derives you of being human. You know what I mean? I can't really align myself with that. And that's why I don't like listening to things like pop music, because I just find there's no contrast in it. There's no attractiveness in that. It's kind of like when you listen to a rock song or a blues song and they hit a seventh note and it's super dissonant, or perhaps something even more dissonant, like a flat second or something like this. And it's so horrible and it's so almost like raunchy, but you absolutely love it. That's what makes me come back to a song is the dissonance. You need the tension and release. And I think attractiveness when it comes to things like art and music, and also people, most importantly in the context of this video, I think that tension and release of like, oh, I like this flaw in someone. That flaw is what makes them them. That's what makes them special. And perhaps this flaw makes someone unattractive, but that's okay. That's part of the game. Like someone's trash and another man's treasure kind of thing. I love that. I think that's the backbone of attractiveness personally. And the last kind of analogy slash metaphor that I want to leave this video with is I think someone that is pretty is like the most beautiful fishing lure ever. And you can cast it out there a million times, but you're never going to catch shit with it because, yes, it's beautiful. Yes, it's the best looking one. Maybe everyone in the world agrees that's the best fishing lure. Maybe even every animal, every fish agrees that's the best one. But there's no hook on it. There's no imperfection. There's nothing that can actually kind of hook you and catch you. And that's what sucks you in. That's what brings you in. And I think that fishing lure, well, it might be conventionally pretty, not attractive, but pretty, it's not attractive. And it couldn't be conventionally attractive. Only that lure can hook only so many people. And maybe it's a bit of a weird metaphor or analogy, I suppose. But I think that's what it is to me. I need that fishing hook. And maybe the lure might be beautiful, but if it doesn't have a hook, it can't get me. But this lure over here beside it, that one might be a little bit less pretty, but it might have a hook on it. And that's what's going to suck me, and that's what's going to actually catch me. So, yeah, I really don't believe in conventional attractiveness. I think it's dumb. And frankly, I don't believe in the sense of what it actually is. I'm not huge on that concept in the first place. I think it's incredibly superficial, but it also just straight up doesn't make sense beyond that point. So that's my stance on conventional attractiveness. Let me know if you have any thoughts, deferring with me or agreeing with me, perhaps something completely different on the subject below. And yeah, that's it for this one. So see you later and have a good day.